Welcome to How I Got Here, hosted by seasoned educator Jeremy Proper. This is a podcast of conversations with his former students discussing their journey from middle school to where they are today. Guests highlight their successes and the life lessons learned along the way. And now let's welcome the host, Jeremy Proper.
If you like and enjoy what you're hearing, please like, subscribe, hit 5 stars, whatever you can to help us out. Thank you so much. Welcome to How I Got Here with Mr. Proper. I will be talking to former students who will tell their story of their personal journey from Mr. Proper's class, aka Club 128, to where they are now. Everyone has a different path to get to where they are now, and that path may just be the beginning to where they actually want to be. In these podcasts, I hope to tap into the journeys that my former students have taken, for them to share their experiences with my current students, and for that matter, anyone else who is interested in seeing how hard work in and out of the classroom actually pays off. Let's welcome today's guest, Tiffany Cheung. How you doing today, Tiffany?
Hi, I'm doing great. How about you?
Wonderful. Now that I have you on, we've been trying to make this happen for quite a few months because you
I
have
know.
an unbelievable, busy young woman life, and it's unreal that we found the time to sit down and do this. So, as I begin all the podcasts, I basically ask the guest if they will tell me about their past history of when they went to the Don, when they graduated from the Don, what high school they went to, what college they went to, if there's any post-grad work, and what they're currently doing now.
Gotcha. Yeah. I'll do you one better. I'll start a little bit earlier than that. Yeah, my name is Tiffany. I was born in New York. I grew up in Boca and Delray. I went to Water's Edge for elementary school, Don Estridge for middle school. I think that was from 2008 to 2011. Atlantic for high school. And then after high school, I went to UC Berkeley, which is in California, and I've been living in San Francisco since I graduated college in 2019. I am now working as a mechanical engineer doing product design for the iPhone at Apple.
This is the woman that I've been telling all of my students about for months.
I feel famous.
You are. You already have a cult following. And this is also just the female thing that I've been talking about. This just happens to be the female. I've been telling females for the last, 20 years, if you're good at STEM, be good at STEM and do it, because they need female engineers. And this is one right now. And she found the path and found what she wanted to do. There are not enough female engineers. I'm sure Tiffany can attest to that.
Oh, there are not. Please, we need you out there.
See,
Come join me.
She's begging. She's begging for more female colleagues, please, because it's a male-dominated field. And I believe one of my former students was telling me that his dad worked for Motorola in Boca, and he had a job opening, and he was doing interviews. He had 85 applicants and not a single woman. And I would always tell the story, and the dad goes, if I had a woman, even if she wasn't as experienced as everybody else, I still would have hired her because we need more women in this field. And Tiffany is those women. She is doing it and living the dream and doing extremely well. So we never really talked about it prior, but how did the whole thing happen of you going to China? I'd really like to know that story.
Oh my gosh. Like how specifically why do I need to go to China, or
Were you
what do you mean?
chosen to do that, or was this part of the whole maturation of making this new phone? Was that
Ah,
did you go there? Was that choice? Were you selected? Like, how did it happen?
so for a little bit of background, I help make the physical parts for the iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
My team does like everything from like you see like the display, like the back glass, you see the metal like casing of the phone. There's so much stuff inside it too. If you like watch iFixit teardowns on YouTube, you can just see all the parts inside the phone.
Wow.
But anyways, we make the physical parts, and basically you have to design the parts. You send it in for mass production for several different prototype builds. And well, because I'm making the parts, I should go to China, see how my parts are made, make any corrections to either design or like see how things are getting assembled. Oh, it's like difficult to put together in this way. You make modifications, and
Right.
that's why it's really important for us to go to
And
China.
it needs to be hands-on. So that's
Yes.
why I was confused, because social here all of a sudden the girl that I know from Boca is in China, and I'm so confused. And you weren't was okay. Another follow-up question: were you not allowed to tell people what you were doing, because you really weren't explaining it, unless you were and I wasn't seeing the code? But I was like, why is she there? Like, I couldn't figure it out until you said it.
Yeah, I'm not specifically allowed to tell you like, like the details, but I can tell you, yeah, I go to China, I do this, I work on
Right. Okay.
XYZ,
Okay, that's what I kind of figured. Plus, because it was something new, I kind of figured, well, maybe they're trying to keep it under wraps and people will get a better understanding of when this thing is actually going to come out. And that makes perfect
Mhm.
sense. Okay. Because I'm just watching this and I'm going, okay. And of course, I'm not bright enough because I didn't go to Cal Berkeley to figure out, oh, wait a minute. She works for Apple. Apple's made in China. She's an engineer. Maybe she needs to actually go see the products before they make it. I just couldn't put it together. I mean, it was just
Well, mystery solved.
mystery solved. Exactly. And it's so incredible. So now I wanted to ask, did you work at Apple at the same time that Andrea worked at Apple?
I don't think so,
Okay,
actually.
so she worked there first, left, and then you went there.
I think so.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. So it's just so weird.
I only started 2.5 years
Yes.
ago,
Okay. Yeah. So
so
you
I think
guys
by then she had like just
just
left.
like exactly. And what's crazy is that she worked on the last version of the MacBook Pro. So it's like, I don't know what it is about you Cal Berkeley girls and Apple, but it just seems to suck you right in, and it's unbelievable because I'm like, wait, now I have two kids that worked, former students that worked for Apple, and you currently do. It's incredible. So
Yeah.
so what is to give some people an idea if this is the path that they choose to go down? What is the Apple experience really like for you? Because again, it seems like it's one of those we can't really look beyond the main window. We just see like the periphery. What is it like, if you can discuss? What is it like for you to work in? I can never pronounce it. Is it Cupertino or Coppertino?
Yeah, in Cupertino.
Cupertino. Okay, what is that experience like? Is it like what everybody says, where it's like just such a great environment that everything is kind of given to you, and it makes it just easier to live and work, so it's not so stressful? Like, can you give a little rundown of what Cupertino, like your daily is at work? Are you able to talk about that?
Oh, this is a loaded question.
Sorry.
It's so interesting. I didn't start out at Apple initially. I spent 2 to 2.5 years of my life working at a couple of startups
Mm,
first. And I would say that the environment is really different. At Apple, I think that we're really lucky because you have resources
yeah, startups don't have
to
that.
exactly.
Startups don't have money, for you kids who don't understand what that means. It's literally what it says. They're starting from nothing, trying to build
Literally.
something. They need cash infusions, investments, angel investors. They need what is it called? VCs, venture capitalists. They need the money to come in.
Mhm.
They have all the people who can make it and all the ideas, but none of the money. Whereas Apple has all the money. That's why it attracts all the people.
Yeah, you have, like, the money and, like it's re when I also say resources, it's so many teams with, like, a breadth of knowledge. If I really wanted to figure out something, maybe somebody has done something similar before. They worked on a study, or maybe there's somebody that's studied, like, materials or studied, like, manufacturing. They're, like, an expert. I can gain more knowledge just by, like, talking to them. And so for Apple, like, it's great that you have resources, and to us, like, everything is about the schedule. So I think that's where it's a little bit different at other companies. We are on such a tight schedule. I mean, you see iPhones coming out every year, right?
Right,
And
right. They need to
sometimes
be
less than
invented.
that.
Somebody has to do that, and
Yeah.
ahead of time. It's not like, oh, I have a term paper due tomorrow. Let me sit down and write it. No.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. You just said something. So it's it's really sounding very almost collegial, where people have the expertise and they are willing to share it. Because in other fields, people don't necessarily want to share, because now, well, I'm helping Tiffany do something when I should be doing something myself and it's making her look good. But at Apple, it seems like you're kind of an open community where it's like, well, I'm the expert on this and you're the expert on that. So at some point, I'm going to have to ask you for help. You're just asking me for help now.
Yeah, and I think we like to share knowledge too because sometimes when you're working on a project, you don't always get to see things through all the way because the schedule is so tight. And you then like share your work with somebody else because you know that like in my job specifically, somebody else just did that for me. And so it's like a knowledge share, like keep the love going kind of thing.
That's awesome. It's kind of like a symbiotic relationship, the nurse shark and the shark. It just seems like
Yeah.
I'm going to help you. And yeah, I'll help you back at some point. It may be today, it may be tomorrow, it may be in 5 years, but we're going to do it. I love that, though. That's so nice that everybody's willing to share the knowledge because that's how we grow as people, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, as a teacher, you're there to share the knowledge that you have with the kids, but it's nice that you can sit down sometimes with colleagues who may have an expertise about something else that maybe you just don't. I mean, kids, you don't realize we don't know everything as teachers. We have to learn sometimes as well. So therefore, it's nice when you have a colleague who goes, "Oh yeah, I love that in college. Let me give you a little tutorial." But that in education,
Right.
it just doesn't happen as much because people aren't always so willing to share because then they think, "Oh, well, you're going to shine brighter than I and I'm the one that gave you that." And that's a really amazing insight that I don't think most people would have unless they cracked the door open or in your case kicked the door open and went and worked for Apple because you're giving a perspective that I think you only get if you're the employee. So again, thank you so much for that information because I guarantee you there's a dozen little yous out there going, I always wondered what it was like to work for Apple and that sounds pretty cool, you know, and that is pretty amazing. So do they, other than talking about the actual functionality or the design of things, did they make you sign a non-disclosure agreement? Yes.
I don't think I specifically sign NDAs, but we do have to get disclosed on a little website and then apply for like knowledge about a project. So I can't just ask somebody about like something really random
Hmm.
related to like a product that they're making
Okay.
unless I have disclosure.
Oh, okay. So that's what it would be. Okay, cool. Because again, these are things that the rest of us outside of the Apple world just don't understand because we're talking about proprietary technology and we don't want anyone stealing it. So that's obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's so cool because again, you know, I understand what these words mean, but I don't understand them in practice because I'm not an engineer. I never played one on TV, so I don't quite understand how
Mm-hmm.
that works. I teach U.S. history about dead people for 250 years. It's public knowledge. You know, we're not trying to change the world. So that's wow, that's really really cool. First off, again, thank you so much for coming on and telling your story because it's so interesting, and you work for a company that 90% of the kids that probably listen to this podcast have on their person 90% of the time. So now
Yep.
now they're getting the insight. So were you an Apple user? Like was that something that you did? Are you an app were you an Apple person before you worked for Apple?
Not entirely. I mean,
Hmm.
I've always had an iPhone. I did have an oh my gosh, I had an iPod Touch.
Going way back. Yes.
Yeah, but I didn't have a Mac until I joined Apple. Didn't have AirPods, don't have the AirPods Max.
Hmm.
But now I have both a Mac and an AirPods Max, and I occasionally use my iPad to play some songs on the piano. But
Nice.
no, I wouldn't say I was like fully like into the Apple ecosystem before that.
Nice. It's weird because as an educator, when I first started teaching, in order for Apple to get their niche in computing, it was all about education and teachers. So they used to give us either stuff
Mm-hmm.
really cheap and sometimes even for free. And I always was into it because of the digital editing and the just the different things that they could do that the PC was unable to. And then
Yeah.
when you were at the school, I was in this program at the time called the Smart Program, and it gave us a Mac. It gave us, like you said, an iPod Touch. It gave us iPad, and it's funny because when I worked at South Miami Middle School, I was always the technology guy. Like I made my own website because we didn't have them for teachers, so I went to the computer guy and I'm like, "How do I make a website?" He's like, come in
Mm-hmm.
an hour a day before school and I'll show you how to code and I'll show you how to make it. And the kids today are like, you built your own website? I'm like, because they didn't have them. I had to make my own, and I wanted to learn how. I'm not an engineer. I don't know how any of this works. He just step by step every day taught me a little thing, and by the end, it was done and it worked. And
Mhm.
then I wanted to do. I was teaching civics, so I had the kids perform a court case, and I videotaped them, and then I wanted to edit them, so I had to learn Apple products, and I had to learn GarageBand and Final Cut Pro and things like that,
Yeah.
and that was really cool. And to be honest, that's actually what led me to being able to do podcasting, because so many people are like, "How do you know how to do this?" And I said, "Well, picked this stuff up along the way, and I learned it." And then all of a sudden, I went, "Well, I have to edit this podcast. Oh, let me just chuck it into GarageBand, slice, done, music, done, finished." And they're like, "Really?" I go, "Look, it's like anything else. Once you learn how to do it, you're not going to unlearn how to do it. You're just applying it to a different, I don't even know what to call it, like a different genre or a different whatever."
Yeah, it's
And
always useful.
yeah, it is. It's always useful. And it's funny because I interviewed a kid, Jordan, who's really big on social media. And that's the one thing he told all my kids. He's like, "Look, you got to learn how to do this stuff now, because now is the time when you have the time to learn it." And he doesn't even edit his own things. He has to pay somebody to do it. And he's like, "I really wish I learned how to do it." And I go, "Well, I did." And he goes, "You're so lucky because it cuts out the middleman. I don't have to pay anybody to do any of this podcast. I do the whole thing. As I say, I'm soup to nuts. I record, I edit, I produce, I promote. I do everything myself because I know how.
Mhm.
And I guess, though, with a YouTube, whatever else you can't figure out, they're going to have a video and show you how to do it. So, you know,
Yeah, you can learn yourself.
exactly. And you got to be willing to do it. We discussed earlier, and I kind of guessed where did you get your original zest for learning? What did your parents do to allow you to go, "I like this"? They took you to a certain place. Where was that?
Oh, this is a good question too, because as we were talking before, it kind of just takes you through life. Like when I'm saying, like, oh, all these people that I work with are willing to share their knowledge because everybody else loves learning too. I think I'm a nerd at heart. I think I've always been super curious. That's probably a common thing people say. I think early on, it's just maybe it just goes back to like your teachers and like what you're being put through in school, and also yes, your parents. So like for example, let's go through school. Like in elementary school, I did this there was this what you call it, kind of like a field trip, but like they came to you,
Yeah.
a program called like High Touch High Tech in elementary
Oh,
school.
wow.
um
Cool.
yeah, it's a program for hands-on science, so you do things like make putty, like try to model like light bulbs and stuff.
Oh, cool.
um, yeah, so as early as that, I guess they started peppering in those kind of things. And then put that together with my parents buying me I got like Legos. I don't know if these people like recognize, but like there's connects, there's
Yeah.
snap-on circuits,
Oh, yeah.
magnetics.
Oh, yeah.
That's all the nerdy
I
stuff.
love that stuff too. I would
Um,
never admit it when I was a kid, but like there was this old place. Maybe you still have heard of it, but I don't know. You remember a place called Radio Shack?
yes.
I loved Radio Shack as a kid, putting circuit boards together, learning how things work. This turns that on, this does this, switches and ons and offs. I loved it. I don't know why. It's just the way my brain worked, and I would just go there
Right?
and play with it for hours. I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And it's just how we're wired. We just want to know. I would literally, my, my mom's a funny lady. Somehow, some way, my dad decided to introduce me to the tool set at the house. So I found a screwdriver, went into my room, and I took off every handle that had a screw. And I was like, "You see, Mom, you can never put away my clothes ever again when I'm not here because you can't open the drawer without me." And then my mom was like, "Okay, then just leave the handles off." And so for months, I left the handles off the drawers until I couldn't take it anymore. And I was trying to make something mean to you. She was like, "Nope, you didn't like it either." But I always was inquisitive about taking things apart, putting them together, finding out how things worked, what caused what. but that's ingrained in you as a person. I don't even know if
Yeah.
someone teaches us that. I think we're actually born with it. We just like to learn.
I think as a kid, like, it's like how people say, like, "Oh, like, your two-year-old is in the phase of they ask just like, why? Why everything?" But you
Hmm.
you go through that as you grow up too.
Right. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. One of my favorite stories was when my dad was a much younger man and I was a little boy. So that makes me young. He took me to work because he had to work on Saturdays. And my mom was like, whew, get rid of all the boys because we didn't have any sisters. He got a free mom day and we went to work. Well, my dad knew that I was inquisitive and wanted to learn. So he took me to his friend who was one of the shop steward. And he's like, John, give Jeremy something to work on. He needs his idle hands, the devil's playground. Give him something to work on or he's going to be the devil in a minute. So he handed me an old compressor because it was an air conditioning and refrigeration company. Long story short,
Mhm.
I take it apart, clean it up, put it back together, and then we have to go. A couple days later, comes back, and my dad seems like he's a little angry at me. He's like, "What did you do to that motor?" And I was like, "I didn't do anything, Dad. I took it apart and I put it back together. That's all I did." And he wasn't being clear with me. And I'm like, Dad, I don't understand. Did I break it? John said it was already broken and I couldn't break it anymore. He goes, No, Jeremy, you didn't break it. You fixed it. And I was like, Then why are you angry at me? He's like, I'm not angry. I can't believe you. You're like 6 years old and you took a motor apart that was broken, cleaned it all up, put it back together, and just for the heck of it, John decided to connect electricity to it and it turned on and it worked. And he was like, How did you know what to do? I said, I don't know. I just started taking off one screw and the next screw and the next screw. And I just started putting everything out on a table. And I remembered how everything went back together. And that's the moment my father realized what a mechanical mind I have and how that stuff all comes together. And I've always been that way. I've always wanted to learn. I would rather learn how to fix something, take it apart, put it back together, and fix it than call someone to do it. Because now, what is that? The old Jesus thing. You give a man a fish, he eats for a day. You teach him how to fish, and he can eat forever. Well,
Yep.
I love learning how to fix things. And I guess it's that sense of accomplishment. Like, I did that. Like, for instance, I was telling my class this year, on junk day, because in Boca you can throw your crap away once a week and they come around and take it. Somebody had
Mhm.
an $800 pressure washer sitting in front of their house. And I was like, I'm taking this thing. And my wife is like, oh boy, here we go. And I'm like, I'm going to make this thing work. I don't care. Luckily, I have a whole bunch of friends. One of my good friends is my mechanic, and another friend who works right next door to him has a son who worked on small engines. Long story short, I spent 4 weekends taking it apart, putting it back together. The kid worked at a small engine shop, fixed the things that I had no idea how to do. And I basically got an $800 pressure washer for, I think it cost me a grand total of $24.
Yep.
And now I have a pressure washer, which I've always wanted and I never had, but I wasn't willing to spend $800 on one. And it's
People do this all the time. They kinda just, like, leave things that they're just not willing to fix it up themselves.
right. Because what happens is when I was a kid, it was cheaper to fix something that broke electronically than it was to buy something new. Now it's the
Mhm.
opposite. It's more expensive
Yeah.
to fix something old than it is to buy something new. So everybody gravitates towards the new and forget the old. So there, like they say, one man's junk, another man's
It's
treasure.
another man's treasure.
And that's it. And are
Yeah.
you willing to put in the time? And my wife is like, I cannot believe you spent 4 weekends doing this and it works. And I'm like, well, I had help, which makes a lot of sense. I had the internet, which is extremely helpful. And then I had the drive to do it. I think that's what it is, Tiffany. I think that you and I are just driven people for the things that we like and want to learn how to do. And
Yeah.
if you don't have that drive, you might be left behind. So you have to find the drive in something. No one's saying you need to be a computer
Mhm.
engineer. I mean, that would be great. But find whatever drives you, whether it be art, whether it be science, whether it be math, whether it be English, social studies. It could be painting, drawing, sculpting, photography. I don't know, music, whatever. Find that thing that drives you and keep doing it. The one thing you have to remember is there's a whole bunch of naysayers who are always going to say no. But if you keep searching long enough, you'll eventually find the one person that'll say yes. And that's what it's all about. Getting yourself
That is what it's all about.
to the place where you want to be. And as we've discussed, it's the same thing with school. You know, you all don't have to go to Cal Berkeley. It's helpful if you do, but it doesn't mean that I'm sure like Apple doesn't just hire people from Stanford and Cal Berkeley and MIT. Like they got to be hiring people from other places as well. A qualified,
Yeah, don't worry.
yeah, I'm not a qualified person. Is a qualified person. It just those hoity-toity, fancy schmancy degrees really help. And speaking of which, you had mentioned something interesting to me that you were offered the full scholarships for the Florida schools through Bright Futures, but you chose to go to California instead. Could you go into what was the Tiffany 18-year-old reasoning? Like, why did you choose that?
It was my parents, actually. I think they had just heard how great of a school Berkeley was. They were so excited when I got in, and that was kind of it. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really know much at that age. So
Wow. So it was a parental thing. That's really interesting. Usually it's the kid who's like, I want to go here. And the parents are like, did you see how much that costs?
yeah. Yeah, it's all the way across the country too,
And then
right?
on top of that, when are we going to ever see you? You're going to be in California. We're in Florida. Like, are you going to go to school in Anchorage, Alaska? Could it be any further away? Like, what's up?
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a
Yeah,
huge,
but they really
no, go
they
ahead.
really wanted the best for me, so
Apparently so. And that's a huge undertaking for those of you that don't understand. College in itself, I don't care if you live in Boca and you go to UF or FSU or you go to any of the Florida schools. Going away is a tremendous new thing because, yeah, maybe many of us have gone to camp when we're kids, but that's only for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. This is month after month after month, and being away from your family, your support system, your loved ones, people who've been your rock for the last at least, 10 years of your education. And now it's, I got to do it myself. I can speak for myself. I can't speak for Tiffany, but there were a lot of crying nights on the phone and a lot of upset times where it's like, man, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I don't know anybody. I'm just trying to get my stuff together. And now all of a sudden I'm here and but then you meet your friends and you start moving along and everything keeps going. But that's tremendous because Tiffany, as you can tell, is a very smart cookie. And do you remember just offhand how many AP classes you probably took in high school? Could you throw out a number?
uh it's a little hard, but because Atlantic has an international baccalaureate program, so
IB, yeah,
maybe it's
it's
like
different. Yeah.
less than half AP and half IB, but I'd
It was a
guess
combination of
like
AP and IB, and that was the 100%. Okay, so
does
whatever was an IB was AP.
yeah, does like 20 sound right?
Yes, it does. So I'm just trying to
Okay,
I'm just trying
cool.
to get a number out of you so the listeners can understand. We were talking about that little thing called hard work, I believe we were discussing earlier,
Mm,
and
very important.
taking 20 APs is beyond hard work, ladies and gentlemen. That's a lot. And for you to take that, and on top of that, um, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but like, were the majority of those fives on the tests?
I'm gonna guess mostly fives and some
Mostly
fours.
fives. Yeah. So three is passing, but fives is what
Yeah.
these universities are really looking for. Fives and like she said, a couple of fours. So these are not just
Yeah.
I took it, I passed it, move on. This is I took it, I aced it, move on. So this is a woman.
Yeah, if you want it to count for credit, you probably have to get a 5.
Right. That's how it works now. So it's and in Ivy League schools, I was told that even if you get a five now, they want you to retake it because of the
Mhm.
monetary aspect, because they're losing out on money. Going to Harvard, oh yeah, I got a five on that AP US test. Yeah, well now you have to take the class again. But I already took it. They don't care. They want you to take it again. It's to get in, but you still have to take it. Did you experience any of that?
I think, like, from AP and IB, I got credit towards graduation, and then there were some classes I was, like, required to take,
Oh wow,
so
interesting.
probably.
Oh wow. So again, these are things that you are the master of experience because none of these kids they haven't even gone to high school yet. So here you are, you're basically their Sherpa. You're carrying them on the backs of you going, okay, kids, this is what I did to get to where I am. And that's the whole point of this, to give a roadmap, to show people this is the hard work that she had to put in to get to where she wants to be, just like the beginning of my podcast says. And hard work is what it's all about. But you got to find the passion. And it seems like Tiffany found it at a very young age, which is incredible because most of us, maybe we don't find it at all, or it takes us a lot longer to find. So that is incredible. So with,
That's okay too, because like I don't think I didn't know what I wanted to do when I went to college at all. I just knew that
oh, really?
I can do school, I can
Engineering wasn't it? You weren't going to there specifically for that? It just kind of happened? Wow.
no, yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. I thought I wanted a double major in CS and art,
Hmm.
kind of because my parents were like, "Oh, Berkeley's a great school. There's a big fervor for computer science, so maybe
Yeah.
you should just try it."
Right, right, right.
Right?
Let's kind of push you in that direction. Yes, computer science, that might work out for you, just maybe.
Right, and so it was me who was like, "Oh, maybe I'll double major in art because I was interested in a career in animation." Just because companies come in career fairs and they try to sell you on things, and you start to figure out like what kind of jobs are out there.
Right.
But I soon learned after just taking some classes and really just trying things that it wasn't it for me. And soon after I started taking more design classes because I really wanted like hands-on things, and I think
Yeah.
computer science was just a little bit too not hands-on.
Not hands-on, yes. It wasn't as practical as you thought because you're sitting there and you're
Exactly.
typing all these things, but you're not necessarily seeing it coming to fruition. Now, obviously at Apple,
Yeah, you create, but it's a different way.
right. And for you, because of the art background, you want to like hold something in your hand. So that's kind of why Apple makes a lot of sense
Yes.
because it's like, I made that. Those, you see that part? That's me. I made that. And that is what you're all about. So basically, you took your love of art, of creation of things, and then took the engineering aspect and are now just creating, well, the iPhone is a piece of art. Let's just be frank. It really is. It's a beautiful device. And when you just look at it without a case on it before you drop it on the floor and crack the screen, but you look at it, it is just a beautiful device. And you can honestly say, I made that part. This was engineered by
Yes,
me.
thank you.
And that's amazing, because not a lot of people have that, not a lot of people do. Like I always say, my kids, my students, those are the things that I produce, that I know I'm only, 1/12 of their life of experience, but eighth grade seems to be a real pivotal year for kids. And, they're having their interactions with their teachers more and they're starting to speak up and find their voice and be their own person and, wear whatever clothes they
Mhm.
want or dye their hair blue or whatever it is that they want to do. And, it's really interesting that I see that. That makes a lot of sense to me on the outside looking in that here you had this art background and you like to produce, and then you took engineering and you're producing an actual item. That's just wow. That's incredible. Holy crud. Wow. So
That's exactly it.
that's unbelievable. So now that we have this zest for learning, if you could go down memory lane, were there any particular teachers that did it for you that like turned that light bulb on that maybe there was a subject you didn't like or there was something that you were just not really interested and then all of a sudden you had Mr. or Mrs. So and so and now you're like, "Whoa, I love this."
Early on, because I was just a very shy kid, I think sometimes it wasn't even the subject that mattered, it was the teacher that paid attention to me.
Mm.
It just made me feel present. I mean, obviously there were subjects I liked, but I think the teachers, yeah, they matter.
Yeah, it really does. And we're talking about that, making connections with kids. It's so important. And having the knowledge that somebody who's not supposed to care about me and my well being does. Like my parents are supposed to do
Yep.
that. My brother's supposed to do that. If I'm getting my behind whooped by the school bully and I can't defend myself, my brother's supposed to come over here and help me, not just laugh and watch and go, yeah, you're going to get it worse when you get home. And now you have somebody who is showing you, look, I care about you. You're an interesting person. You have interesting things to say. You're having a bad day. Is everything okay? You're flashing that smile, which you don't realize how far it goes until somebody tells you, I was having a really bad day today and you smiled at me and my bad day went away. And I'm like, this smile? Okay, glad I could help. I just really feel it's the little things. It's the little things in life that we do for people that we forget about, but they're going to remember forever, that they're going to take with them and they're going to say, you did this for me. And I'm like, I don't even remember doing that. Well, you did. And I'm reminding you and thank you. And it's like, it's funny that you don't see it that way. And then all of a sudden the kid comes back and writes you a nice email and, hey, you did this for me and it made a huge difference. You did that for me and thank you so much. And, I usually get a few of those on Teacher Appreciation Week, not asking for anybody, people, just saying.
Mhm.
I usually get some, and it puts a smile on my face that it's like, oh my God, I haven't thought about this kid in 10 years, and now they're telling me all these wonderful things about me. I don't even remember doing that. Well, I guess I did, and it made a difference. And that's it. You got to be a positive in people's life and not a negative. The problem is when the people aren't seeing it as a positive. I'm trying to be positive, but you're turning it into a negative. That's a you problem, not a me problem. So you have to understand when people are put in your path to help you, just as when people are put in your path to hurt you. It just is the way it is. And we have to learn how to meander up, down, around, and go that way. Like Tiffany was saying, she started off in 2 startups and realized these may never go anywhere. And for those of you that don't understand, again, a startup is a business where people are trying to make it into an Apple at some point, because Apple was a startup, but that was a long time ago. But when you start there, the idea is that over time, hopefully this company will turn into something, and then I will be there from the beginning. Like, Facebook, when it first started, their original people, the day that stock went on sale, these guys were all millionaires. Every single, like the first 100 Facebook employees were all millionaires when Facebook stock went public. And that's the idea, that I'm going to start from the beginning. I'm going to build something. We're going to take this off the ground and it's going to become something, and we're all going to do it together. We're all rowing the boat in the same direction. If you could name a teacher that gave you like an aha moment, was there a teacher that like all of a sudden, maybe it was a math teacher, because like you're doing engineering, that's a lot of math. So was there some math teacher that, but again, you said you really didn't get into engineering until you went to the school. It wasn't like, okay, I'm
Mhm.
going here to be an engineer. No, it just kind of happened. Was there ever a teacher that did that for you, that you were like, oh, okay, I like this. This teacher is making it make sense?
It's actually funny. I like when I think about these things, the first example is not a math teacher. The first example I have is Miss Adamo.
English teacher, yeah.
English, yes. I guess I liked a lot of things back then, and I just remember very specifically, I was talking about, oh, like the teachers that like pay attention to you.
Yeah.
And in that class, I remember we had a paper to write, and all the boys in the class were bragging about how they were going to do so well, and like they only got B's.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I may have gotten the only A.
Probably not
But
surprising.
yeah, I think that just taught me that you don't need to be loud to be seen, and I think that's, like, the most concrete example I have,
Nice.
because in other classes, I also think that there were teachers that noticed me, and it just made learning, like, more fun, but that
Yeah.
was probably just a example that I remember.
The word that came to mind there while you're telling that awesome story, because you're an amazing student, was braggadocious. The kids who are braggadocious and loud and obnoxious and look at me, look at me, look at me. Tiffany and I were talking about this earlier. She was a very, very quiet kid, and she marched to the beat of her own trombone. Like it wasn't even a drum. Tiffany did what Tiffany did. And I noticed, and I thought it was amazing. And I didn't actually get to tell her that until right before we did this podcast, because she was her own person. And to me, teaching as long as I have, being that different kid in middle school really takes a lot of intestinal fortitude, because kids are not nice. Kids are mean. Kids make fun of you. Kids bully. Kids do not nice things, and especially with the internet. And she was a shy person, but as she said, but to me, I'm interested in those people for probably not a reason that you would think. Because I'm obviously, at this point in my life, I'm not a shy person. I haven't been a shy person since I was probably 11 years old. And those are the people that are interesting to me, because she was always paying attention. She was always listening. And whenever she had something to say, I would have to quiet the class down to be like, what did you say? Say that again. I want to hear it. And you were like, no, no, it's not important. Say it again. I heard you. I just want everyone else to hear you, because I always listened to what you had to say, because you were so insightful. You saw things in a way I never did, but that's because you have this kind of mind. And I love those kids, because hopefully it shows everyone else you don't have to be the loudest kid in the room to be the smartest kid in the room. sometimes the quiet kids are the ones that are going to surprise you. And this one never surprised me because I knew she was always going to be smart. But I just knew it. Like in somehow instinctually there was something about you. Your line of questioning. You're paying attention. You're scanning the room wherever I was, because I never was to sit down and stay in one place. I was constantly walking around, and this you were always watching and seeing where I was going, and that tells me you're paying attention and you're listening. Whereas, like we said earlier, the other kids are standing there counting the dots on the ceiling tiles, and you're just kind of like, "Where's this guy going with this? I want to know what left turn at Albuquerque are we making?" And those are the kids that motivate me to be better, that motivate me to be interesting and fun and try to do it. And I kind of like just drag the other kids along and they get to enjoy it. But the kids like you because you're the one that's making the difference. You're the one that's inventing this new technology that every single person has. And I can't think of anyone else that I know of, unless, of course, they're making movies or things like that. But you're making something that the world is going to have. And I don't know too many people that can do something like that. And that is an incredible, incredible thing. And you have to be so proud of this woman, which I am. And she needs to hear it, because we all need to hear when we've done something well. We all need to hear when we've done something good, and maybe we second guessed it, or maybe we thought, oh, it's not so great. And it's just incredible, because we all have something to offer to the world. We just have to figure out what it is and find that passion and find that thing to get us going. If you could turn back time and tell your 8th grade self some advice, what would you tell them? What would you tell yourself? And I've added to that question, would you believe it? Because I know I wouldn't. But would
Ooh.
you?
Okay. I think the advice I would give myself is that stuff is awkward when you're young. It really gets so much better. I think you should treat life as an exploration of yourself and don't take yourself too seriously. But I don't know if I would believe it coming
Right.
out of my
I
own
wouldn't believe
mouth.
it either. Like I would see
It's hard.
old man me. I'll be like, what do you want? Well, I'm future you. No, you're not. Do you have that hernia scar? Here it is. Did you break that ankle? Here you go. And I would be like, old man, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm young. You're old. Your life is over. I don't need to listen to you. And I just added that second part recently over the last few podcasts where would you believe it? Because I know I wouldn't, but there's certain kids out there which I know they would. I interviewed a kid, Max, the other day, and he was like, yeah, I'd listen to myself. And I'm like, yeah, you would. He's training to be a doctor at Yale. Yeah, unbelievable. And yeah, and I'm like, you'd believe yourself. Yeah, you would. I wouldn't. I'd be like, what is this facsimile of me who's old, who doesn't understand? And that's it. It's like, but you said it, like you can't take life too seriously. You got to have a moment for a break. I got that a lot. Kids say, I would tell myself to slow down,
Yes.
take a break, smell the roses, enjoy yourself. It's going to happen, but have a little bit more fun along the way, you know? And that's it. We all need to learn how to have a little more fun. I don't think I do, but everyone else does. I know how to have fun. I understand that because life is just too short. And I bring that into the classroom, as we've discussed earlier. I want the kids to have fun. I'm talking about 250-year-old dead people. No one cares. Well, let's make it interesting. Let's tell a story. Let's say, did you know this about George Washington? Did you know that about George Washington? And they're like, no, I didn't. But the problem is when you're trying to teach U.S. history to 8th graders who have no foundation of this stuff, you can't go into the cool stuff until you learn the boring stuff. You have to learn where everything came from and who everybody was until you start telling the cool stories. But that's what's fun about history, because people are always like, Mr. Proper, why do you like history so much? I said, it's not so much the rote and routine history, like, George Washington was the first president of the United States, blah, blah, blah. No, it's the stuff about George Washington. It's the things that you didn't know. Like, I didn't know until I heard a speaker who works across the street at Lynn University say that George Washington never bought a slave. They were all inherited because he married Martha. Martha was a widow. He was the surveyor, the prime surveyor for Virginia, and he knew everyone's property. So when Martha's original husband, passed away, he was like, ooh, what's going on here? So apparently George was a little bit of a player back in the day, and he married her.
Interesting.
And he inherited all these things. So I say to the kids today, does that change your mind? I'm like, yes, still own them, but He never bought them. He just inherited them. It's just something to think about. And most people don't know. Those are the cool, like, history stories that I like to tell. And I like to get the kids on board because that's where history is fun. But you have to learn the foundations of America, where we came from, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the 10 Amendments. You have to understand what all these things are before you can start talking hyperbole or whatever big word you want to use about history. And, they're like, oh, okay. And I go, when you were a little kid and you barely were doing adding and subtracting, how would you feel if your parents just decided to throw in some numbers and now all of a sudden it's algebra? Like, you couldn't do it because you don't understand the other aspects. Because they always ask, why do we have to learn geometry? Do you use geometry in your real life? I'm like, no, I don't. But it allows you to open your mind to think in a different direction that before geometry you couldn't do. You know, Everything has its purpose. If geometry was stupid, do you think they'd still be shoving it down your throat for, I don't know, a couple thousands of years? I mean, I don't know, like Pythagorean and all these people who invented these math things. Like, they're obviously of some importance, but trying to explain it to a 13 or 14-year-old doesn't work because they don't have the intellectual capacity to see the forest beyond the trees. They're just like, this is dumb. My
Right.
teacher's terrible. Why do I? I'm like, welcome to real life. Wait till you get to college and have a professor that barely speaks English and it's a class you stink at and it's the only time you can take it and you're forced to do it. That really happens? What do you think? I just made that up? Yes, that's how it happens. And that's life in itself. We all have to learn how to bend, how to be better people. The art disappeared, so it never really was. You never got like a minor in that or anything.
I did not. Actually, when I was starting out engineering, I did want to try to combine the two,
Hmm.
but that didn't pan out.
Right, right. It's difficult for sure. So now that we're just head on into engineering, what was
Hmm.
Tiffany me time? What was downtime for you? What was like? Okay, I can't do any more math today. I need to go out and do what?
Is this middle school me, high school me, college me, now me?
Any me you would like to share with us. You could go through all of those if you would like, or just pick one, whatever it is that you like to do. To me, it sounds like it's changed over the years, so that's really interesting because I just do the same thing. I ride a bike. I've done that since I was like 8 years old. So maybe middle school was one thing, high school was another, college was another, and today is a brand new one.
Yeah, I think it depends on where are in life. I think I probably didn't take enough me time in middle school. I think I was just spending some time with my friends and figuring out life.
Hmm.
Um,
That's
in
always
high
a good thing.
school, also, I don't know if it's really hard to have me time, and I would say that it's really important to make time for it.
Hmm.
Um, in high school, I my family used to own a restaurant,
Mm.
so working at the family restaurant, a lot of weekend nights would be my main activity. I would try to do like community service. The art thing does come up here. I would paint on the weekends too.
Okay, okay. The art's back. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you had different things over
and
time. So as you got older, it became something else, just something to occupy your time that wasn't educationally based. So for you, it was the restaurant, then it was art. And that's amazing because we all need to have that. Do you do any art today? Have you gravitated back to that? Did you find yourself doing maybe digital design or if you're into painting? I don't know what kind of art you really like. We never really discussed it. So do you do that as an
oh,
adult?
I do everything. I think post college, I'm super crafty. I do everything I can get my hands on. So
Nice.
I
Oh,
crochet,
wow.
I tuft, which is rug making.
Yeah, that's old school.
Um,
Whoa. Wow. Tough. I haven't heard that in forever.
yeah, not sure if people know what that
No,
is.
they don't. You want to take a
Um,
minute to describe it to them and explain?
you use a what's called a tufting gun, and I guess it's like a needle, and then you
Right.
have like a ball of yarn that is fed through it, and you're just let's say you pointing the gun like at a canvas and putting it into it, and then moving the gun along to like create your design. It's really fun actually.
So it's kind of like sewing with help.
With a gun.
With a gun, right?
Yeah.
I'm sewing with a gun, not like an AK or something like that, but you're sewing with something that does the work for you. Oh my God, that's so cool. Yeah, exactly. I had
Yeah.
forgotten exactly the technique, but I'm like, I know what that is. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
do s
hmm
I d do still paint,
nice.
and I also do things that are a little bit more engineering-y too. I don't know if this is, like, kind of combining art, which I was, like, talking about before, but I woodwork and I've tried glass blowing, so
Are you
there's a lot of
kidding?
different
You
applications.
are a Jane of all trades. This is incredible. Glass blowing. Oh my God. Woodworking, man. Now, I must admit,
It's just fun.
yeah, it is, dude. I must admit, when I was in middle school and high school, they had all these things. They had wood shop, they had metal shop, woodworking,
Really?
auto mechanics. Yeah, we got hands on all the time. I'm a hands on kind of person. I need to make something, and I need to understand. I don't care if it's a napkin holder or whatever. I need to make something. I
Mhm.
literally made a napkin holder in middle school. That's why it came up. I just like wood, and here's what's crazy. Maybe you do too. I know this is odd and it's going to sound weird to the listeners. I love the smell of cut wood.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Thank you for
I
saying
relate.
yes. Thank you for saying, I was like, I'm putting it out there. Please say yes. Yes. I just love
I
it.
think you could be an engineering major, Mr. Proper.
Apparently so. I have the qualities. I just don't have the math ability. But I love the smell of cut wood. I love to use. I had a, I had a woodshop teacher in middle school. It's eluding me his name right now. I just remember he was from Boston and had the thickest Boston accent. And he's like, "Today we're going to learn how to use the miter box." I'm like, "The what?" He's like, "Miter box." I'm like, "Miter box?" Yeah, that's what I said. I'm like, "No, you didn't." And he's like, then we're going to learn how to use the crosscut saw. I'm like, a what? A saw? I'm like, can you spell that in English? Like, he was the funniest guy in the world, but he taught us all kinds of cool stuff. And we had the bandsaw and we had all these like heavy duty
Yeah.
machines. And here we are, like 12 years old, using these high powered machines. It was so cool. I loved to do it. And then being in the Boy Scouts, we had to make our own soapbox race car. And I remember because we were in woodshop, I was like, I can make this better. I can make this faster. And so I hooked up the teacher. I was like, hey, bro, what do you like? And he was like, gave me something. I was like, okay, I brought it in like breakfast. And I'm like, I want you to help me make this faster. And he was like, oh, no problem. And so we were like cutting off pieces, shaving it here, doing this. Like I felt like I was doing the beginning works of like auto design, like CAD or something like that, where you're like literally
Yeah, that's what I
where you're
do.
literally doing the design of the car. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever, and that's it. And it's like, I have a friend who took it to the next level where he's so good at this. He too is a computer engineer, strangely enough. And he, in one of his places where he lived, he literally built himself his own cabinets for the whole house, his kitchen cabinets, his bathroom cabinet. He just
Wow.
put them together and built them. He got all the tools. But this was the kid that loved this stuff in middle school and high school. But he became an engineer, but he loved the hands-on as well. And he told me one day, he's like, I know I won't make any money, but when I retire, I'd like to do this full time. I was like, wow, that's incredible. He goes, I just enjoy it, and everyone finds their own little niche. And sometimes it's just because of a neighbor. Like you go over to the neighbor's house. I remember my neighbor, he had all these machines in his garage. And he's like, oh, come on in. We'll show you how to use this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I think a lot of it also is the old guard teaching the new. Like, here you go. Pass this
Mhm.
skill on, because otherwise it's going to disappear and go away. Wow. That's awesome. You love the smell of cut wood.
That's great to learn that at such a young age too.
Yeah, it really is. But again, I grew up in the no goggles helmet generation where don't worry about your eye on the floor. Let's just keep doing this. Today they're like, oh my God, you're going to cut your
Right.
finger off. I'm like, there's a guide there that stops that from happening. You seem to have gone through a lot of education and taken a lot of really hard classes. What would you say if you could pin it down to maybe one or two? Was there a really, really challenging educational moment for you that you were just like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this?
When I applied to college, I mentioned before I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I got accepted into the College of Letters and Science.
Nice.
And you can think yeah, you can think of this as like there's a lot of like a good breadth of majors. There's like humanities, but there's also like some econ, some computer science, like it's a big school, but it's not the School of Engineering. And I think maybe my most challenging part of college was basically figuring out that I wanted to be a mechanical engineer and having to go through that process because you have to apply to get in.
Right, right. It's
I
a
have to write
school
an
within a
essay, I have to
school.
take the
Right,
classes.
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
There's
exactly.
a process, exactly. Yeah. It's not like, oh, you're here, let's go. No. So, so for
No.
those of you that don't understand, she applied to the university, got in, then figured out she wanted to do this major, had to reapply to get into yet a smaller school inside the school. So it's like, not, whew, I'm there, I can be an
Yeah.
engineer. Now it's, oh, I have to reapply. So it's almost like 12th grade all over again, where you're just going through the application process or graduate school, where it's like, oh no. And there could have been, I doubt it for her, but for some people, there was the probability that they weren't going to get in.
Yep. And that definitely happened. So it's very scary and
Wow.
not the easiest thing to do.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that because no one really likes to share the scary moments in their life because, it's scary, but you got through it and it was adversity and you did a great job because here you are working for Apple. That is incredible. So, is there anything about Don Estridge that you learned but didn't realize that Don Estridge taught you until later and all of a sudden turned around and went, wow, I learned that at the Don and I still use that today?
Yeah, I think Don Estridge is where it all started. I think it taught me maybe how much I appreciate my teachers. I actually wanted to be a teacher growing up, and I guess I realized then, and I guess now, how much of the world they really teach me. That's like your entire life as a kid, and it Don Estridge prepared me for high school, which prepared me for college, and that's where I am now.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. So, you know that you can always become a teacher and that
Yeah,
just be
still on the board.
exactly still on the board. I love to hear that. So, that's the thing with engineers that once they've hit the pinnacle of success, then people want to know how did you do it? And then you can teach it to
Hmm.
other people. Like one of my friends is David is a psychiatrist and he works actually in San Diego. And he teaches now at San Diego State because he's been a psychiatrist for so long that now he is a professor and he's able to teach. And he said for him that that's some of his most fulfilling things because now he's taking all the stuff that he learned over his career and he's able to impart that onto the younger generation. And hopefully they'll take it and use it because he had a successful career. So maybe that's the next phase in your life where you could take all of the experience that you will be gaining from now, past, and future, and you can impart that onto younger generations. And that maybe that's again the path that you may take. That's incredible. I didn't know that. It's always good when someone has ability and is able to do something and then they want to share it with others who can do it because of what you have said and had the whole podcast is passion. You've had a passion for learning, you've had a passion for working, you've had a passion for
Hmm.
success, and it's worked out in your favor tenfold, a hundredfold, a thousandfold. It's so amazing to see someone who's put the effort in and then the end result is what you wanted and the end result is what you worked so hard for and what you were trying to accomplish. And that is what's so rewarding. You have to feel so great for yourself. And I know I do. And that's why we're here talking about it because this is an unbelievable story. You've accomplished so much in, from my perspective, maybe not yours, in seemingly a short period of time. I know to you, time is different. And, I've experienced so many more things in life because I'm older. But looking at your experiences, you're way ahead of the game. I mean, you're doing an amazing, amazing job. I know.
Thanks. It's really nice to hear all that. 'Cause as we were talking before, like you were just saying how I probably can't see things in a different way when I was in middle school. I'm like, oh, I'm like weird, I'm uncomfortable, I do like all this. And you telling me it is somewhat like inspirational for me to do what I want is really, I guess, like puts things in perspective.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I have a tendency to do that, and especially on these podcasts, because I can cut through the minutia and I can see the reality. I can see what's going on. And one
Yeah.
of my best or worst qualities, depending upon how you feel about Mr. Proper, is that I tell the truth. And sometimes people aren't ready for it. Sometimes they need to hear it, and sometimes they don't want to hear it. And I have started to tell people when they're like, "Well, what do you think about this?" And my response first is, "Are you sure you want to hear my opinion?" And some people are like, "Oh, yeah, no, I don't want to hear your opinion. Your opinion is a little much." And so then if they get past it, I'm just telling the truth because unfortunately, the truth is reality, and not a lot of people want to face it. But in this case, it's definitely not bad. And, if I can change your feelings about you at this juncture, I'm so glad to do it because all I see is a wonderful person. All I see is a smart person who has achieved things that probably many people will not, and it's amazing to see someone at your age who's already this successful because it's like, where in the world can
Oh.
you go from here? And I can't wait to see it. I'm Tiffany's cheerleader. Like, I want to see all these things because, like I said, it was only 1 year, but it's impactful. And I think those are the formative years where you're learning about yourself, you're learning about people, you're learning about
Oh,
life.
definitely.
Yeah. And to see you now, almost 15 years later, as this adult woman, and to be able to tell you that this is how I saw you then is a great feeling for me because now you get to know what I really thought of you at the time. Because, you know,
Yeah.
as a 13, 14 year old, you're probably not ready to hear those things. But as an adult, now you're like, wow, people did see me that way. Yeah, because that's who you were. And it's a great feeling when someone sees you as you hoped that they would see you. And I'm sure if I did, I'm sure there's hundreds, if not thousands, of other people throughout your life that did. But like I said, the only difference is I'm willing to say it because everybody needs to hear good things about themselves. Everybody needs to hear that they're a good person and they've done wonderful things. They've worked really hard and it's all paid off. And like I said,
I,
it's all about hard work. I say it in the beginning. Hard work pays off in the end. And
mhm.
and if Tiffany is not the person to tell you that, I don't know who is because this was a shy little girl in my class. We were talking about obviously, my height. I'm a very tall person. I'm 6'3", and actually, I probably weighed more when you had me. I was probably 6'3", 220 at the time. I was probably 20 pounds heavier than I am. And this is who I am. So I kind of forget sometimes how big of a person I am. And even when I'm not trying to be intimidating, which is most of the time I'm not trying to, I still am because you're seated, you're a smaller person. And then this giant person is coming to you, talking to you, and asking you questions, and you didn't seem to be intimidated. You were just kind of like, okay, he's interacting with me intellectually. That's what I'm here for. That's the challenge I want today. Let's have at it. And I'm like, let's hear what this person has to say. And you always had something poignant or interesting to say and had your own perspective. And, we talked about that in the way that you dressed and presented yourself to the world. And that takes a real tough person to go out there in middle school and be different. Right? It's easy to be the lemming and follow everybody along. It's hard to be the peacock and be your own person and show people this is who I am. Like it? Great. Let's be friends. Don't like it? Still great. Don't want to be friends. And that's a
Mhm.
tough kid, and you gotta really give yourself more credit, and I'm glad I'm here to tell you because you need to hear it. And that's why I love having these podcasts because so many people are like, you saw that in me. I wasn't even sure I saw that in me. And I'm like, you gotta understand as
Yeah, and it really pays off too, because your whole life is really just about being yourself and figuring out like who you are.
mm-hmm. And some of us, it takes a lifetime. And I hate to say it, you figured this out a long time ago. Maybe you didn't realize it, but you figured this out a long time ago. And a lot of times I've thought about that for myself, going, God, why didn't I figure this out sooner? Why am I banging my head against this brick wall for 20 years when, wait, if I just take 2 steps to the right, the brick wall's out of my way? You know, some of us, we're hard headed and it takes us a lot longer. But, like the old ancient Chinese saying says, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And we're all ready at a different time. And as long as we're ready and that time comes, sometimes unfortunately, like for my wife, you have to be a lot more patient with certain people, aka me. So now that we've had our Tiffany Love Fest, I end all these podcasts in the same way, where I ask the question, do you remember who Don Estridge was as a person?
I remember he was a computer engineer, and quite possibly before I even started going to Don Estridge, I remember that the school is a former IBM building.
I don't have my thing connected. I normally have. I ran out of battery, so I normally have my clapping. So let's see if I put the speaker up to it, if it can hear it.
Let's hear it.
Can you hear the clapping? Barely.
I hear it. I hear it.
Okay. I always play that, but I ran out of battery and I don't have my condenser mic and headphones for this part. But yeah, that's exactly it. And it's funny because whenever I have engineers on, I always give them the hint when they can't remember and go, "You wouldn't have a job without Don Estridge." And it's funny because I've asked a couple of people who weren't my students, who are actually friends of mine, who became computer engineers, and they're like, "Man, that name sounds so familiar." And I'm like, "Yeah, you wouldn't have a job." And then they can't remember, and I tell them, they're like, "Oh my God, how did I forget that?" I'm like, "Because you probably learned that 30 years ago, and it's really not germane today." But yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
He was the inventor of the personal computer. The school has his personal computer in the front office. I don't know if you remember that. And
Not really.
yeah, that's okay. That's okay. And supposedly he invented it there at the private IBM facility that you smartly said. Most people don't remember that part, that it was a secret IBM facility. I remember when the building first was opened, people would ask me, who were Boca natives for 30 years, when did they build that building? I'm like, I don't know, 40 years ago. What? There used to be all trees there. I go, yeah, the building was behind the trees. IBM.
Secret.
Yeah, it was total secret. IBM eventually phased the building out. That's actually why Boca exists. Boca exists because they needed a place for all the IBM facility people to live. If IBM never moved here, who knows how long it would have taken to actually settle Boca Raton. There's some history for you. So it's really interesting. And that facility eventually was turned into a school. That's why, like I tell the kids, have you ever been in Miss Joyner's room and noticed why there's a pole in the middle of her classroom? Because the school wasn't designed to be a classrooms. It was designed to be a technological invention place, invent new technology. So they reappropriated it into classrooms. And then they're like, now that makes a lot more sense. So that's amazing that you knew that. So, well, what a shocker. I mean, you are a very smart person and you're an engineer, so I'm not surprised. But once again, Tiffany, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and taking the time, because I know this podcast in particular is going to touch a lot of little girls who are going to think, can I really do this? Can I be a computer engineer? Isn't this a guy thing?
Yes, you can.
And there's Tiffany in her little voice telling you, like the little engine could, I know you can, and I know you can. And I had always known that there was something going to happen to this girl, that she was going to turn into a woman who was going to be very successful. I never realized I was going to have a podcast and be able to talk to her about it and then have you listen to her. But I'm so grateful for you coming on, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No, this is a great opportunity. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you for listening to How I Got Here podcast with Mr. Proper. Music provided by Miss Mata. Thank you to Patty Fernandez for the introduction. Thank you to Seth Proper for logistics and behind-the-scenes production. Join us next time for another episode of How I Got Here and more stories of former students and their journey.